The town of West Memphis, Arkansas was forever scarred. May 5, 1993, a day that started like any other. Children played under the cloudless sky, their laughter echoing through the streets. But as dusk settled, a chilling discovery plunged the community into a nightmare. 3 8-year-old boys, inseparable friends, vanished without a trace. Stevie Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore were gone. Their disappearance sent a ripple of fear through the town. Hope dwindled with each passing hour, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The community rallied together, searching tirelessly for any sign of the missing boys. Days turned into an agonizing wait. Then, the unthinkable. Their small, lifeless bodies were found submerged in a muddy creek in the nearby woods of Robin Hood Hills. The idyllic name now carried the weight of tragedy. The boys were bound, their bodies bearing the horrific marks of unimaginable cruelty. West Memphis was no longer a picture of small-town America. It was now a town gripped by fear and consumed by an insatiable thirst for justice. Stevie, Christopher, and Michael, 3 second graders with bright smiles and a lifetime of adventures ahead of them. Stevie, the leader of the pack, always up for a challenge. Christopher, the quiet observer with a heart full of kindness. Michael, the mischievous one whose laughter was contagious. These were the boys whose lives were cut tragically short. The details of their deaths were too gruesome to comprehend. Each boy had been stripped naked and hog-tied with their own shoelaces. Their bodies bore deep lacerations, consistent with a serrated blade. Christopher, in particular, had suffered unspeakable brutality. The coroner's report painted a grim picture of the boys' final moments. They had been subjected to unimaginable torture before their lives were cruelly extinguished. The community grappled with the sheer evil that had visited their town, leaving an unfillable void in their hearts. The investigation began immediately, a frantic search for answers in a town drowning in grief. The police, under immense pressure to find the killer, focused their attention on 3 teenagers on the fringes of society. Damien Echols, a brooding, introverted teenager with an interest in the occult. Jason Baldwin, quiet and reserved, often misunderstood. Jessie Misskelley Jr., with a low IQ, easily influenced. These were the boys who would become the prime suspects. Their love for heavy metal music, their dark clothing, and their interest in the occult made them easy targets in a community desperate for a scapegoat. The police, lacking physical evidence, relied heavily on a coerced confession from Jessie Misskelley Jr. His testimony, riddled with inconsistencies and later recanted, placed all 3 boys at the scene of the crime. The prosecution presented a case built on flimsy circumstantial evidence and prejudice against their alternative lifestyles. The West Memphis Three, as they became known, were tried and convicted in the court of public opinion long before they ever stepped foot in a courtroom. Section 4. Whispers of Doubt, Cracks in the Facade. The trials were a media spectacle, the eyes of the nation fixed on the small Arkansas town. Damien Echols, portrayed as the ringleader, was sentenced to death. Jason Baldwin received life in prison without parole. Jessie Misskelley Jr., spared the death penalty due to his confession, was sentenced to life plus 40 years. Despite the convictions, whispers of doubt lingered. The prosecution's case, heavily reliant on questionable evidence and witness testimonies, began to unravel upon closer inspection. No DNA evidence linked the teenagers to the crime scene. The alleged murder weapons were never found. The prosecution's theory of a satanic ritual killing, based on flimsy evidence and fueled by the satanic panic of the time, seemed more like fiction than fact. Even Jessie Misskelley Jr.'s confession, obtained after hours of interrogation without a lawyer present, raised serious concerns about coercion and his mental capacity. Despite these glaring inconsistencies, the conviction stood, leaving many questioning whether justice had truly been served. Section 5. A Nation's Lens focuses Paradise Lost. The case of the West Memphis Three might have faded from memory, another tragic example of justice miscarried, had it not been for the unwavering dedication of their families, supporters, and a documentary filmmaker who dared to challenge the narrative. Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills, directed by Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 1996. The film, with its raw footage and in-depth interviews, cast a harsh light on the flaws in the investigation and trial. Paradise Lost did more than just document a case, it sparked a national conversation. The film exposed the teenagers not as monsters but as victims of a flawed justice system, swayed by prejudice and pressured by a community desperate for answers. The documentary became a lightning rod, galvanizing public support for the West Memphis Three. Celebrities, musicians, and ordinary citizens rallied behind their cause, demanding a retrial and a re-examination of the evidence. The film, and its subsequent sequels, brought the case to the forefront of national consciousness, turning the West Memphis Three into a symbol of wrongful conviction. Section 6. Freedom's Sweet Taste, a victory marred by compromise. The fight for the West Memphis Three's freedom was long and arduous, spanning nearly 2 decades. New forensic evidence, including DNA testing unavailable at the time of the original trial, failed to link any of the three to the crime scene. Expert witnesses challenged the prosecution's theory of satanic ritual killing, deeming it baseless and inflammatory. The pressure mounted, fueled by public outcry and the tireless efforts of their legal team and supporters. In 2011, a deal was struck. The state of Arkansas, facing mounting pressure and the possibility of a retrial, offered the West Memphis Three an Alford plea. This unusual legal maneuver allowed them to maintain their innocence while pleading guilty to lesser charges in exchange for their release. It was a bittersweet victory. While they walked free after 18 years of wrongful imprisonment, the Alford plea left a cloud of doubt hanging over their heads, their names forever linked to a crime they maintained they did not commit. Section 7. Lingering Shadows. The Unanswered Questions. The release of the West Memphis Three did not bring closure to the families of Stevie, Christopher, and Michael. The question of who killed them remains unanswered. While the West Memphis Three are now free, their exoneration came at a cost. They were robbed of their youth, their reputations tarnished by years of wrongful imprisonment. The Alford plea, while granting them freedom, prevented a full exoneration and a deeper investigation into the real perpetrators of the crime. The case of the West Memphis Three serves as a chilling reminder of the fallibility of the justice system. It highlights the dangers of tunnel vision, where the pursuit of a conviction overshadows the search for truth. It exposes the devastating consequences of prejudice and the power of public opinion to influence the course of justice. The case continues to haunt the town of West Memphis and the nation, a stark reminder of the human cost of wrongful conviction and the enduring fight for justice.